Today we are in Frankfurt. This is Saturday the 19th of June 2010. This is a hotel, the Holiday Inn on the eastern side of Frankfurt. We are starting our tour of Eastern Europe trip, ending up in Munich with the play at Oberammergau.
This is the view from the hotel room. We've got a bit of time to waste today because we've already been here a couple of hours. It's 3 o'clock. We're meeting the tour guide at 7 o'clock. So nothing really happening today. It's just a get-together consolidation day. Big hotel. That's the old Frankfurt City Wall. A little bit of it been renovated there and turned into a German restaurant. This is our room for the first night.
And we are going to go for a little walk.
So we probably won't do any more filming today. We'll just get all the directions and talk to you again on the coach tomorrow.
We are leaving for the city sightseeing. We are going to get in touch with the local guide, Bernd, B-E-R-N-D, which is shorter for Bernhard. And well, you're going to have a very nice city sightseeing. Well, what the weather considers, they were saying, at least in one channel, the other one was most probably saying something completely different, so that it would be like cloudy.
That's revolving restaurants up there.
Yeah, you see, you go down there to this big avenue.
So this is Alexanderstrasse.
Alexanderplatz.
And Mary's. It was built in the 13th century and it looks quite modest from the outside, but from the inside it's the most beautiful Baroque church here in Berlin, as it was the only historic building in this area that survived the Second World War. So that's the church ahead of us to left, St. Mary's. That means from the inside it still has the beautiful original Baroque, and so doing so well in the East, they're participating in our present government. That's probably the reason why Berlin is completely bankrupt. Then we're going to step into an island on the River Spree, and this part of the island is called Treasure Island, or the Berlin. Now when we cross the River Spree to the far right, you will see a beautiful golden oriental dome. This dome belongs to the new synagogue. And the new synagogue was built in 1866 as the largest synagogue in Germany, and it was the expression of the political emancipation of the Berliner Jews. So in a minute you will see it, beautiful building, and the synagogue survived the terrible Kristall Night in 1939, when most of the synagogues were burned down by the Nazis, and it was rebuilt in 1995, badly destroyed during the war. And the same year the Berlin Cathedral here to right was also reopened after 18 years of reconstruction. Today it's the biggest church in Berlin and the seat of the Protestant bishop. Then ahead of us to left you can see a big empty square. There used to be the Royal Palace before. You can see a computer photograph of it ahead of us to the left. So then to the right hand side you've got 2 of the 5 museum gallery, where we have art from the 19th century. And the square here to the right, that's the oldest Berlin museum building, also called the Old Museum. It was built for the higher education of the Prussian people in the earlier 19th century. So here to the left we have a big empty square, and told you that here we had our royal palace, which was the seat for the Prussian kings and later the German empress. Unfortunately, this royal palace was blown up by the communists in 1950 against the worldwide protest. There was also no need for it. But the communists hated everything that was connected with royalty and also religion. Museum, which is the most famous Berlin museum. It's the oldest architecture museum in the whole Berlin, one of the best ones. Then we've just entered the street Unter den Linden, where we have a beautiful historical landscape. Here to right, that's the oldest building in this Berlin Boulevard. Also designed the famous pyramid in the Louvre in Paris. Now this used to be one of the most magnificent streets in the whole world. Unfortunately, from 64 buildings, only 13 survived World War II. Now, behind the Opera House to the left, the green dome of St. Hedwig's Cathedral. Yes, so this is King Frederick II here to the left. Yeah, Frederick II, also known in history as Old Freddy or Frederick the Great. He ruled Berlin for 46 years. Under his rule, Berlin became a very important city in Europe. And you're lucky that you can see Old Freddy again. He had ridden away for 7 months. He went to a beauty farm. 1 mile long, but it has all these lovely historical buildings, and it ends in front of the Brandenburg Gate, which is at the end of the street to the right-hand side. This will be one of our photo stops later on. We are now approaching the most beautiful square of Berlin, and one of the most beautiful squares in Europe. We are approaching a beautiful Gendarmenmarkt. When they were persecuted and slaughtered in France, so they found refuge in our city. Around about 1700, every 5th Berliner was a Frenchman. So I can imagine the immense influence that in Berlin's life. Berlin has always been a melting pot of different nationalities. At the moment we have about 820,000 foreigners living in Berlin, coming from 182 different countries. The majority of them, about 50%, come from the Orient, especially from Turkey and Arabia. Now here to right, the dome building, that's the so-called French dome. On the other side of the square, it's a twin brother, the so-called German dome. And in the middle of the square, that's one of the masterpieces of Mr. Schinkel again. That's this beautiful playhouse built in 1824. And also from the inside, a really breathtakingly beautiful building. After the restoration of this building in 1984, this has been a concert hall. The square, but now they've given up this idea, and Gendarmenmarkt is the meeting point between the classical and the contemporary Berlin architecture. So here in this area can really study the new Berlin. Then we're going to turn into Leipziger Straße. That's the street at the next traffic lights ahead of us. And in Leipziger Straße you see some blocks of apartments. They were built in the early 70s during the communist period. And at that time they look very different from today. That's some rather primitive looking plastic tiles. And in the meantime these buildings have been also westernized. Opened. That was on the 9th of November 1989. Probably one of the happiest days in Berlin's history of the entire 20th century. So at the end of the street, the first East Berliners were climbing over the Berliner Wall, heartily welcomed by the West Berliners. In this area also, all these buildings around us are really brand new. Ahead of us to the left, a very colorful block of apartments designed by the late Italian star architect Aldo Rossi. So he chose these stronger colors to brighten up the rather boring socialist architecture we used to have here in this area. Then we are turning into a Zimmerstraße. The sentence sounds very normal, but for 28 years we could not even turn into the street, as it did not even exist on the Berlin map for 28 years. It was part of the restricted area, the so-called forbidden zone, and it was covered by sand so that the East German sentries could see the footprints of refugees. Then we had all the obstacles here, like tank traps, police dogs, tripwires, and every Fiat's watchtowers with the two East German sentries guarding the anti-fascist rampart, as they referred to the Berlin Wall. I think there was nothing more famous in the whole world than Checkpoint Charlie. I think they even knew this in Timbuktu, but the same thing again, nothing left of Checkpoint Charlie. Yet we will make a short photo stop here, and you can take a photograph of the nothing here, and tell your friends back home this used to be a Checkpoint Charlie. Here on the Russian side right, really nothing left. To the left on the American side, we have a copy of the Guard House. The original one stands in the Allied Museum in Berlin. And around the corner here to left, also the Berliner War Museum.
So the famous or infamous Checkpoint Charlie. It's not even the real Checkpoint Charlie. The original hut is in a museum somewhere. So, there we are.
You want me to take a picture? Oh, that's great.
Financial affairs. On the next corner to the right, you can see some little plastic cars. This used to be the most popular East German car called Trabi. For this silly little car, you had to wait 10 years.
A section of what remains of the Berlin Wall. See, it's actually very thin.
The crumbling Berlin Wall.
That's the East German car. I think I had to wait 8 years to get one of those in the days when they were in demand.
Also knocked out pieces of this garage wall, which they've just finished repairing. Then ahead of us to right, the building has the Berliner flag on top with the Berliner Bear. The Berliner Bears in our coat of arms. That's why you see so many teddy bears in Berlin. That's a building. So here left, this museum building. There's at the moment exhibition mod Frida Kahlo by the poster during the Napoleonic era. Now here to the left-hand side you can see this line of bricks which indicates where the Berlin Wall used to be. And you will see that this wall line is going right across the next street. So this was another divided Berlin street here. They built the wall along the district borders, and they had this sort of a zigzag course, so the wall did not have a straight line as most people thought. We are now approaching the brand new city center of Berlin called the Potsdamer Platz, Potsdamer Square. This is here building the new Potsdamer Square, the biggest one are Mercedes-Benz. Here to the left, the rather futuristic looking architecture by the Italian architect Renzo Piano. This is the little Mercedes town. They invested a lot of money and built 19 new buildings here. And the second biggest investor was the Japanese company Sony. Over there to the left, the Landless is here. Mr. Jan was also supposed to build the highest building on the square, this glass tower over there to the left. This to the left, and together with the TV antenna, it's slightly higher. East and west are slowly growing together again. On this square we used to have the world famous graffiti wall. Behind the next crossing, ahead of us to left, some pieces left of it. And there used to be a viewing platform next to it, and millions of Western tourists had looked over it. And who would have thought that the wall would come down so soon and so suddenly? So it happened on this very square here that the first East Berliners were climbing over the wall when it suddenly opened. Now, this square used to be the left in the Mercedes city. We have some nice shopping arcades and also two big musical theaters, also the biggest golden yellow facade. That's the new Prussian State Library, which holds about 4 million books. Then ahead of us we have a pretty classicistic church from the middle of the 19th century. St. Matthew's Church was also destroyed during the war and rebuilt in the 60s. Then next to us to the right we have two golden yellow concert halls. And ahead of us, that's the painting gallery, the white building in the back, oil paintings, including the man with the gold helmet. It's the biggest European painting gallery after the Louvre in Paris. So why don't you take a deep breath here? You can inhale Berlin's famous champagne air. Berlin's air is well known for being extremely healthy. And this is why most Berliners, like me, do their exercises every morning. Neo-Nazis. So, to the right in the background we see the pink pipe, that little hill. Underneath it is that famous bunker. Now behind the next crossing right you can see a huge field of concrete blocks designed by the American architect Peter Eisenman. That's the Berlin Holocaust Memorial. It was erected in memory of the murdered Jews in Europe. It consists of 2,711 concrete blocks. They look like gravestones. It was built like a maze. You can walk through it and have your own thoughts. Also in the basement, then we have a documentation center. Then we are approaching the famous Brandenburg Gate, where we are going to make our last photo stop. It's the most famous building in Germany and the symbol of Berlin. And the next crossing at the Brandenburg Gate. So today we have 11 international investors here building the new Pariser Platz. We are here to the left. They're taking away the tribunes of a big gay parade we had last weekend. It was Christopher Street parade.
English and French. That is good. Oh, the one. We should try to get someone to photograph us, but there's nobody from the group.
Killed along the Berlin Wall, along the German border. It was more than 1,000. The building here to the left is the famous German Houses of Parliament called the Reichstag. In a few minutes we will see it from the front. So this building was very close to the Berlin Wall, and the Brandenburg Gate was in east, whereas the Reichstag was already in West Berlin. Now, on the other side of us, that's the largest office building for the German parliamentarian. Top of the historic building, there's a modern glass dome, which is a viewing platform, and from up there one has a very nice view over the city of Berlin. It's free of charge, but normally there's a very long queue outside, and sometimes you have to wait about 1 hour to get inside, get controlled in there, like at the airport. Here to the left we have another office building for the German parliamentarians. Berliner, he was a doctor and a Nobel Prize winner. His name was Rudolf Virchow. He worked at the oldest German hospital, which you will see in the next road street to the right. You see the old red brick buildings there here to the right hand side. It's called Charité. It was already founded in 1710. So this hospital has produced plays at the Berlin Olympic Stadium, including the final. We were hoping to be in the final again, become again the next world champions. We missed it. We lost against Italy because we had such lousy referees. Now, this time we are trying it again, this time in South Africa. Are there any Australians on the bus? Now, the station to the right is the largest, most expensive and most impressive railway station in Europe. And we have more than 1,000 trains going through this new gate every day. At the moment, the strongest party in our country, and this way Angie is our Chancellor. She meets her ministers in that big middle part of the building. From one side they have a nice view over to the railway station, and from the other side to the German Parliament. In front of the Chancellery you will see a beautiful piece of modern art. I hope you like it as much as the Berliners do here to the right hand side. I'm talking about this lovely brown rusty thing over there. The name of the sculpture is Berlin, you probably guess anyway, and it's supposed to show the dynamic development of our city. Particularly in this area you can see how everything has changed in the past 20 years. All these buildings here are really brand new. The railway station, the parliament buildings, the chancellery, and even the building site. All these people want to go up into that glass dome. This glass dome was an idea of the British star architect Sir Norman Foster. He also modernized the entire building here from the inside. A very modern building, but looks old from the outside. Germany in 1871, when Berlin became the capital of the United German Empire. Chancellor Helmut Kohl did the second uniting in 1990. The Western Convention Hall here behind the trees to the right, that was built in conjunction with an international building exhibition in 1957, was one of the American contributions to it. It has a classical nickname. It's nicknamed the Pregnant Oyster. 7 years ago they called it Jimmy Carter's Smile. Here's right, a piece of modern art by Henry Moore. That's the butterfly, a rather fat butterfly. The Pregnant Oyster was the first outstanding modern building that was built in West Berlin after the war in our country. The political power in Germany is always in the hands of our Chancellor. Next to the seat of the President, 1866 and 1870-71. The column is 210 feet high, and right on top of it, the heaviest angel in our city. He was the first all-German Chancellor. He was called the Iron Chancellor. Back there to the right, Mr. Bismarck. And on the next corner right is a friend and the Minister of War, Marshal von Roon, looking very thoughtful, Charlotte. She was a real Rubens model, and even Sophia Loren would get green with envy looking at Sophie Charlotte. But she was a very popular queen, and when she died, this part of Berlin was named after her, Charlottenburg. Similar. We're going to leave Ernst Reuter Square again. Ernst Reuter was the first governing mayor here in West Berlin after the war, an extremely popular mayor. He made some brilliant speeches to the whole world. With Ernst Reuter, the West Berliners survived the Berlin blockade in 48-49. At that time, Mr. Stalin had cut off all the land and water routes from into West Berlin, and the West Berlin population could only survive because of the so-called airlift of the Western Allies. They came in more than 250,000 at times with the aircrafts, very small planes at that time, and they brought us everything we needed, more than 2 million tons of goods of all kinds, including a complete power plant, which was flown in piece by piece. Altogether, 78 people died during the Berlin airlift, pilots and ground staff. These were the first victims of the Cold War, and many more were to follow. The Pekingese. Next week is going to Hamburg. So much about to the right, you will see a masterpiece of the German Baroque, one of the most beautiful equestrian statues in the whole world. It shows the great Elector. This gentleman was the ruler here in Berlin in the 17th century, when Berlin was only a small town with just 5,000 inhabitants. Then behind the trees to right, the other wing of the palace, it's called Orangery, where the Prussian kings used to grow their orange trees. Almost 350 square miles, but only about 3.5 million people live here. Mumbai only half the size of Berlin with about 80 million. Moscow only slightly larger with an estimated 50. Before the war, Berlin had already 4.3 million inhabitants. At that time it was one of the biggest cities in the world also population-wise, right in the center of communism. In East Berlin they also wanted to have a completely new beginning, but there they wanted to do everything like their big brother, the glorious Soviet Union. So East Berlin developed into a typical communist city that you find all over Eastern Europe. And these two completely different cities, East and West Berlin, were reunited on one day, on the 3rd of October 1990. On our mornings too, you could see the progress we have made in the meantime, but they think it will take another 10 years of time to Berlin is really one city again. The same goes for the mentality. The mentality between East and West, unfortunately, is still very different. Not really surprising after about 40 years of communist brainwashing. I think this will take another generation, maybe even two, to Berlin is one city in this respect as well. To the left, the building from the German Emperor's time, that's another university. That's the University of Arts, where our musicians study. And next to it, the modern Kunsthalle in the next corner, that's the concert hall for the University of Arts. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are now approaching the center of the Berliner West End, where we're going to end our morning tour, because there you have a lot of shopping and eating facilities in the famous Kurfürstendamm area. Office building designed by the British star architect Nicholas Grimshaw. So all the international top architects are building the New Berlin. This building over there to right is the seat of the Berliner Stock Exchange, also the seat of the Chamber of Commerce. And of us, the railway station Zoological Gardens. It was the biggest Berliner railway station before the new Central Railway Station was opened. It's called Zoological Gardens because the Berliner Zoo is just around the corner to the left. It's the oldest zoo in our country and regarded as one of the prettiest zoos in the whole world. Yeah. Now, right in front of us, the landmark of the Berlin West End, the famous church, Kaiser Wilhelm Memorial Church. The old church was completely bombed out during World War II, so they just left the old Bernhard Bell Tower here as a reminder of World War II, as a warning. The new church was built in 1961. All the glass panes of the modern church were made in a Chartres in France. They give a very charming blue light night. We call the old Bernhard Bell Tower the Hollow Tooth, and the new building surrounded the Compact and Lipstick. As you have noticed, everything gets a nickname here in Berlin, something very special for the Berlin character, because Berliners in general like comparing things. In the place to the left, that's the Berliner Aquarium. It shows the colorful world of the sea. This part of Berlin was also completely leveled during the war. And this to Berlin, right now we've got 110,000. At the end of the year already 120,000. That means Berlin has been the real tourist boom after the opening of the Berlin Wall, and all the international hotel chains have invested since.
Church, we are stopping just after it, and you're in the city center of West Berlin, yeah, and we are going to meet later on at 3 o'clock on the other side. Some of you are thinking to come with us. Please do come. Some of you are. To go to the Alexanderplatz, drop some of you there, and then we are going to continue for our hotel.
waves?
No, I don't think so.
I hope you had a nice day.
Yeah.
Weather was perfect, eh?
Yeah.
Yes, no rain, eh? Yeah. So let us do it like that, you know. Thank you for not spoiling the weather. Yes, yes. Oh, yes, yes. Just a second. We are closed there on Wittenbergplatz. Never mind. This is normal for Berlin. Yes, yes. So tomorrow we are going to have a morning call as it is written on the poster. Always a poster written on any of the hotels we are in, you know. So we are going to have a 6 o'clock morning call, and then we are going to have from 6:30 luggage out, yes, and we are going to yes, come for the breakfast, which is on the first floor, as you know, and then 7:30 we are going to leave for Warsaw. We are going to travel for some 12 hours, maybe more, maybe a little bit less, who knows. And they can walk here in Berlin. They are very, you know, strict. They can walk 15 steps one way and 15 steps the other way, and that's it. Yeah. Waiting for the customers.
Which side?
Side to the left and to the right. Yeah.
Which one? The blonde, maybe. Maybe not. Who knows? Probably just a nice girl. I wonder what those. Did anybody ask you?
Place of interest of many Berliners. It is a theater, comedy theater, and so on. Many restaurants, very lively atmosphere, interesting during the daytime, interesting during the night time. Yeah. And you can spend there a lot of free time. You can spend there time and money and enjoy it very much. Coming from West Berlin, from Neukölln into Mitte, which is the center, passing by Kabans, yes. So, to the right hand side, take a look, take a photo. you won't see much of them elsewhere because you know, it is a scientific miracle that these you know, vehicles are still moving. These Trabants, there are many jokes about them. No, has to do something with European Union. Here, to the right hand side, passing by the Museum of Communication. Yes, that was the last museum in the city of Berlin which was open free of charge, and that ended up some 3-4 years ago. Yeah. Yes, interesting, huh? So now you pay for the museums. Well, such is life in Europe, huh? It's at least continental Europe, huh? So, we are coming to the Alexanderplatz. You can't miss it, eh? Big needle of a TV tower. So, we are going to stop on a suitable place where there is a bus stop a little bit further, and then it takes 5 minutes if you follow for example, the river Spree. You must end up this direction, yeah, by the dome, which cupola you can see to the left. Yeah, moment or so, you know. So let us make it not quickly in order not to fall, but seriously, you know, to how to say.
Can we get this tram back?
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are leaving for Alexanderplatz, movement here and then to the right. If you are leaving for the island, straight ahead, and then you are going to be there in 5 minutes. So, oh, I might be back easily to this area a little bit later, yes. Well,
nearly back to the hotel, so pick up again tomorrow.
By Nazis and so on. So some of the names remained, some of the names stayed, some of them were renamed and being given the old names. So they were old new names, which are actually old names from 19th century, for example, yes. So
we're just leaving East Berlin now on our way towards Seoul.
And it's Tuesday, the 22nd of June,
and
2010.
here we are turning to Frankfurt Oder. That is another Frankfurt on the river Oder. Yeah, it says here Lichtenberg is the most eastern part of Berlin. basic architecture, big blocks of flats. Many of them very empty, you know. So, well, that was the story throughout ex-countries of socialism, you know, predominant type of building. After World War II, this city, as the rest of Europe, was, you know, in a very bad condition, especially Berlin, you know. So they didn't have time, didn't have money, they didn't have knowledge, you know, to build something more beautiful and more quality.
Definitely getting to civilization now. We just passed a McDonald's and Ocean Supermarket. There's a Carrefour coming up just ahead. You could think you're in France, but we're in Poznan. Just entering Poznan.
Mówi krążenia, więcej będzie kombinacji mnie nie znajdziecie. Idziemy do marginalu.
I bardzo dobrze. Bartek, przepuśćcie Olka i Kacpra. Ja na pierwszą parę.
Well, I would like to give you 1.5 hours time, you know, so, you know, 1.5 hour. So if we make it later on back, 1:45, would that be okay? Okay, 1:45. You are going to need that time for lunch. Lunch can be taken in any of these restaurants, like there is a Benelux one, you can't see it. Then this one with the Tiskier sign. One, two of them here. Then the restaurant which is on the corner is like a sweet shop, but there is another one. So in any of these restaurants, and there are some stands around the square with some sausages and so on, you can have a lunch, approach the tactics I explained earlier, bring us food and bring us bill with the food, so you don't lose the time. Do the lunch maybe first, because later on you can calculate the time you are going to be spending on.
So this is Tuesday now, the 22nd of June. We are in Poland. We left Berlin this morning at 7:30, and the first big city after the German border is called Poznan, P-O-Z-N-A-N. It was the first capital of Poland, and we are in the main square with all the typical, it's a typical Polish town. We're staying here nearly 2 hours, and then we are going to Warsaw for 2 nights.
My się widzimy, to mogę spotkać się za 20 minut. A to dlaczego ty dzwonisz w tym interesie?
Pochodzi z 1618 roku, czyli ma niecałe 400 lat. Ale dobrze widać, jaki był czas układ miasta. Jak spojrzymy, po lewej stronie mamy Ostróg Turski, czyli tą wyspę z katedrą, przez którą przejeżdżaliśmy. Rozlewisko, tylko one są widoczne z boku, mamy jeszcze wielką i wodną. 4 brawy prowadziły.
Right, this is a map of Poland. That's where we are, Poznan. We come from Berlin, which is there. Poznan, and tonight we're going to Warsaw, which is 390 kilometers. That's where we spend 2 nights, and then we go down to Krakow for 2 nights.
Okay. Rather strange little seats there with a hood over the top of them.
Tumski, the island of Tumski, where all the city started its life. We are going to cross now the island itself. We are going to cross the river Vata, and then we are going to continue direction New Warsaw, direction Way, and we are going to do it in next 5, 6 hours, who knows, because it depends very much on the traffic we encounter on the road.
All the little boxes can be furnished by IKEA, and Carrefour can supply everything else.
Down, you know, at any cost, but even at any cost, the cost was too high, you know. And well, ungladly, but after, you know, hefty debates, they decided to leave it as it is, and now it is called a Palace of Culture, which means that is another thing. There is a discotheque in the basement, and then people are going up for what is the price, buildings of insurance companies, banks, so very new buildings and very modern looking and so on. So we are coming to the crossing to Marszałkowska and then to the right building, which is the biggest building of whole Poland regarding building as a street.
We have arrived. It's 23rd of the 6th, which is Wednesday. And it's about 8:25, and we're just leaving our Warsaw hotel for the city tour. This afternoon's trip has been cancelled, so we're not sure what we're going to do this afternoon.
It's really not a good picture here.
We're quite central here.
It's mostly residential, so our tour is going to take place on the west side of the river. And now we are in the very center of the city. Actually, we are now driving along the main street of Warsaw, the main street of the city, which is called Marszałkowska, the Marshall Street, the main street of Warsaw. And your hotel, Metropole Hotel, is located right in the middle of the town, in the center of the city, actually at the kilometer zero, because this roundabout where your hotel is located is also the kilometer zero. From there, mileage is counted to all the different cities, towns in Poland and in Europe. Ladies and gentlemen, the name of our capital city in Polish is Warszawa.
This is
Warszawa,
Constitution
that's the name
Square.
in Polish, Warsaw, English, Varsovie in French. And there is a legend about the beginnings of the city, the legend which explains this name. And the legend tells us about the fisherman whose name was Wars, W-A-R-S, and his wife whose name was Sawa, S-A-W-A. And from their first names, Wars and Sawa, the name of the city, Warszawa, began. So this is one of the legends about the beginnings of the city. Right hand side, you can see the memorial to the Polish cavalry and the park named after the Polish cavalry. And a lot of green areas, so not only parks and gardens but also trees which are planted alongside every street, alongside every even very busy avenue. 5% of the total destruction of the city, 85% of Warsaw was just leveled completely during the last war. And we may compare the city to a phoenix, the phoenix mythological bird which rose from its ashes. Warsaw also rose from the rubbles, from the ashes after the Second World War. But today there are three predominant styles of architecture which you can see all over the city. The typical communist style buildings, which of course are not very pretty, like the one here to your left, very basic brown or grayish brown or brownish gray buildings, not very pretty. Then the second style of architecture, these are reconstructed buildings, recreated, like a little church which you can see in front of you to your right. It's a Roman Catholic church. Reconstructed. No, it was not destroyed. It was not destroyed, no. It is originally. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we are now in absolutely the biggest and the most beautiful park in the center of the city, Łazienki Royal Garden, created in the end of the 18th century by the last king of Poland, Stanisław Augustus Poniatowski. But here you can see the statue of Frédéric Chopin. I'm sure you've heard this name before, Frédéric Chopin.
Yes.
The greatest Polish pianist, composer, the one who made Polish classical music famous all over the world. Every 5 years in Warsaw, there are the famous international Chopin music competitions organized here. And this year, 2010, is a very important year because it is considered to be the international year of Frédéric Chopin.
Siguro kailangan ng ano. You need
This is a music playing bench. There's 50 of these throughout the city playing different pieces of Chopin music.
Avenue. And this avenue, the inhabitants of Warsaw, compared to Champs-Élysées from Paris or Unter den Linden from Berlin, the most elegant avenue of the city. On the left side, the buildings of the Polish federal government. All the ministers have their offices here. On the left side also the main entrance to the office of our Prime Minister, the head of the Polish government. Here on the left side you can see the Polish flag, which is white and red, and the flag of the European Union, because on the 1st of May 2004 Poland joined the European Union. Right in the park you can see the statue of another famous Polish pianist and composer, Paderewski. Ignacy Jan Paderewski, a very famous Polish pianist, famous not only in Poland but also in the United States, also in the Western world. Buildings of the Parliament. And here in front of you to your right, the memorial to the Polish army, which fought for independence of Poland during the Second World War. P with an anchor, which you can see on this memorial, is the symbol of the Polish resistance movement. P stands for Poland, Polska, and in Polish, and an anchor that Poland will always be here. Picture that he wanted to have something from the eternal city, from Rome, also in Warsaw. That's why he designed this church exactly on the plan of the Pantheon. Of course, it's a miniature of the Pantheon. But the church, as well as the buildings, which you can see in front of you, to your left and to your right, were recreated after the war. The church was recreated too. You can see the statue of Charles de Gaulle and the roundabout named after Charles de Gaulle. And now we are continuing our drive along this most elegant avenue
This is
of
a false
Warsaw,
boundary. The only one in
with a
Warsaw.
lot of coffee shops, a lot of restaurants, a lot of fancy boutiques, a lot of jeweler stores, antique art galleries are located here. The beautiful Royal Way. Of course, all these buildings, which you can see here on the left and on the right side, they are not originally old, as you already know. They were destroyed during the war and recreated after the war. Later I will show you documentary pictures how they looked like. On the left side, the oldest cafe in Warsaw, Cafe Blikle, which was opened in 1869. Cafe Blikle. And as you can see, looking to your left and to your right, a lot of cafeterias, a lot of ethnic restaurants. Of course, most of them are still closed because most places here open at 11 o'clock, 10, 11. The Church of the Holy Cross, the church where the heart of Frédéric Chopin is entombed. This is where the heart of this genius Polish pianist is placed. According to his last will, his older sister Ludwika brought his heart from France to Poland after his death and placed it in the church here, because in the yellow building on the left side, in a moment, you can see on the first floor, you can see the plaque where Frédéric Chopin lived. See on the left side here, Frédéric Chopin lived until 1830, until he left Warsaw forever. The Warsaw University main campus on the right, and on the left side, famous Polish priest, famous for fighting against communist regime. He was imprisoned for many years by the communist government. Eternal flame and the change of the guards every hour on the hour. We are now getting on the Victory Square. The Victory Square, where every Sunday also there are parades of, you can see also these red flowers. That's where the tomb of the unknown soldier is. In front of you to your left, the building of the National Art Gallery. How Polish people feel about this building? Well, generally speaking, we don't like it too much. And recently there were even plans to destroy it, to tear it down. The inhabitants of Warsaw voted to tear it down, but Warsaw architects finally decided not to do so, saying that although it is connected with a very sad part of the history of the city, it's still part of our history. Plus, it would have been extremely expensive to tear down this high structure located in the center of the city. It is a preside. On the left side, the statue of the most famous Polish romanticist, poet Juliusz Słowacki. Juliusz Słowacki, whose poetry may be compared to the poetry of Lord Byron, for example. And here on the left side, the main entrance to the office of our mayor. The mayor of Warsaw is a woman now, Hanna Gronkiewicz-Waltz. That's when they built a 3-meter, 10 feet high wall with a barbed electrical wire on top of it and broken glass on top of it. And the Nazis crowded in this comparatively small area 500,000 Jewish people, 380,000 Jews from Warsaw and 120,000 Jews from the little towns, little shtetls outside the city. Total 500,000 people. 500,000 people who were forced to live in completely inhuman conditions, no food, no water, no electricity, no gas. People died on the streets of the ghetto. They died of starvation and of many diseases, such as, for instance, typhoid, which was very common in these times in this area. Also, a lot of people from the area of the ghetto were taken to the Nazi extermination camps, and they were killed in the gas chambers of Treblinka. Treblinka was the Nazi extermination camp created by the Germans to eliminate, to exterminate Jews from the Warsaw Ghetto. We are now on the site of the former ghetto, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, this area today does not resemble the old ghetto area at all. It's a completely newly created section of the city. Newly laid out streets, post-war buildings, some of them reconstructed, but these are all post-war buildings. And today, only the names of the streets and the memorials tell us about the martyrdom, Holocaust, and the heroism of Jewish people. Now we are driving along the street named after Dr. Ludwig Zamenhof. Zamenhof was the creator of the artificial language Esperanto. Dr. Ludwig Zamenhof lived in Warsaw. A Jewish sculptor, Nathan Rappaport, and it was unveiled in Warsaw in 1948. 1948 was a very important year for the history of Jewish people because it was the year when the state of Israel was created. And you can see a bas relief which shows Jewish people being led to the Nazi extermination camps. You can see men, women and children, and in the background the Nazi soldiers with their helmets on and their weapons. 500,000 people perished from this part of the city in the years 1940-1943. 200,000 died in the ghetto and 300,000 people were taken to the Nazi extermination camps. Soviets in the forest of Katyn, Starobielsk, Stashkov. And this big tragedy, which I'm sure you've heard about, which occurred this year, and when the plane crashed at Smolensk, a Polish plane with the president of Poland, his wife, and a lot of dignitaries. This was the tragedy which occurred at Smolensk, as I said, but they were on their way to commemorate 2,000 Polish officers killed by the Soviets in the Soviet extermination. Memorial here on the left side. Fallen crosses. In front of you to your left, one of the big stadiums in Warsaw Soccer Stadium. In 2012, Poland, together with Ukraine, are going to host the Euro Championship in soccer, the Euro Cup. So here in front of you on the left side, the Supreme Court headquarters. On the right side, the building of the National Library. The National Library where all the archives are kept, all the most important documents from the history of Poland are kept here. On the left side, the big memorial to the Warsaw Uprising. Warsaw Uprising, August-September 1944. Well, ladies and gentlemen, during the Second World War, there were two big uprisings. The Jewish Ghetto Uprising, 1943, and the Warsaw Uprising, 1944. This is the memorial to the Warsaw Uprising, which was the biggest and the most tragic uprising in the Nazi-occupied Europe. 250,000 people, really, civilians of Warsaw, were killed, were slaughtered by the Nazis during the 2 months, August and September 1944. One of the biggest tragedies of this uprising was the fact that the Soviet troops were already stationed on the east side of the river and they knew what was going on in the city. They knew about the slaughter of the Varsovians by the Nazis, made by the Nazis, but they did not help the uprisers. It was all connected with the politics. The uprisers were against communism, and the Soviet army, of course, was a communist army. In front of you to your left, the military church, the garrison church. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as difficult as it is to imagine that this part of the city was leveled completely, was really completely destroyed. All the buildings which you can see here, absolutely each and every building was recreated. There is not a single originally old building. But as difficult as it is to imagine, here I would like to show you a documentary photograph which was taken right here on this square. This square is called the Castle Square because here in front of you to your right you can see the Royal Castle. This is the building of the Royal Castle which was blown up by the Nazis. And over here on the column you can see the statue of the King Sigismund III Vasa, the king who moved the capital city from Krakow to Warsaw. Here you can see this documentary picture taken on the square in 1945. There is really, as you can see, there is no exaggeration in saying that this part of the city was leveled completely. Yeah? That's the picture. Again, why do we talk about the complete destruction of Warsaw? Because the Nazis blew up the buildings. It was purposeful destruction. It was not just bombing or fighting, yes, or Air Force raids even, but but it was purposeful destruction of each and every building right here. Even the medieval style defense wall, which you can see over there, it's also a copy. It's not originally old. Because, well, the old town area was reconstructed like this. According to the medieval plan, which means that it is surrounded by the wall, which you can see over there. Yes, the whole town is surrounded by the wall, and all the streets lead to the main market square. And that's exactly where we are going to go now. In a moment, we are going to go to the main market square, ladies and gentlemen. But before that, I'd like you to have a look over there on the right side. That's the bridge, exactly, the beautiful suspension bridge, you can see. And behind the bridge, on the other side of the river, the National Stadium. That's where the National Stadium is going to be the main stadium, soccer stadium in Poland. Okay? And now, let's go. Vince, the scratch from zero, from nothing. Here on the ground, you can see the plaque which shows these two dates when the cathedral was created. Originally, in the 14th century, in 1370, as a typical Northern Gothic style church, it was erected, completely leveled during the war, completely destroyed by the Nazis. In 1956, recreated according to the old Northern Gothic style. Ladies and gentlemen, it is really the most important church in the city, or the cathedral. Of course, visiting is not allowed, as you can read the sign. No visit during the service, because there are services. It's an active cathedral. But of course, you're welcome to come here on your own later during your free time. Also, my suggestion to you is at 12 o'clock every day, besides Sunday, which is today is not Sunday, there are these absolutely fantastic organ concerts. Some more documentary pictures about showing the magnitude of the destruction of the city. This is the square which we are going to go to in a moment. Yes, the market square, and you can see the burnt out, completely destroyed. Just the facades of the buildings left standing. Also, we need to remember that the Nazis left a lot of mines under the building, so the city had to be demined additionally. 50 million tons of rubble had to be removed from just the old town area first to be able to reconstruct the building. In the middle of the main market square in Warsaw. Of course, it is no longer a typical market square. Farmers do not come here, they don't sell their products here. It is mostly tourist areas, right? And here, in the middle of the main market square, you can see the statue of the Mermaid of Warsaw. Yeah? The Mermaid of Warsaw, a very typical symbol of the cities here in Poland, located on the Vistula River. Yeah? And this is the official crest of Warsaw, the official symbol of the city, the Mermaid of Warsaw. Why the mermaid, you may ask? Yes, why half woman, half fish? There is another legend which tells us about the beginnings of the city. You already know one legend, right?
Ale chodzi o chipsy.
Warszawa.
Masz też chipsy? Barbie, gdzie są? Ej, Barbie na wstępcie, spójrzcie.
There is another legend which tells us that once upon a time there was a handsome knight who was hunting here in the woods by the river Vistula. Suddenly he was attracted by a voice of a woman, and chasing her voice he came down by the river where he saw this beautiful half woman, half fish.
Everything is a reconstruction, all destroyed during the war by the Germans. So however old it looks, it's actually post-war.
It was here where we are standing now, where there was a drawbridge, and a moat filled with water, double moat, double defense wall. It's all recreated, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, no more water in the moat, no more drawbridge. It's all a copy. If you look at the top of the building behind you, you will see the date, 1954. This is the year when this particular structure, when this particular building.
This was the main gate to the city, all again reconstructed post-war.
Curie, okay? Madame Curie, I should say Maria Skłodowska-Curie. Yes, you can read her name over here. Maria Skłodowska-Curie, because she was born here in Warsaw. Her maiden name was Skłodowska, but worldwide famous, she became as Madame Curie because she married a French chemist here, and of course all her discoveries she made in France.
Poland, an intermezzo in a dramatic history. Happy Warsaw, a city of gardens and palaces, a city of everyday work and of relaxation on holidays. A poet's delight. You dash unchecked in a pulsating gallop, chased by centuries of history and glories of the past. You rush along and snatch us up with you to Europe's surprise. Soaring, powerful capital, O Warsaw. Houses, new districts, a city looking to the future, which after centuries of suffering can't be bad. The sudden end to a historic episode of normality, the German attack on Poland, war, the painful awakening of Warsaw, the desire to defend her buildings, traditions, her beauty. 20,000 volunteers dig trenches. first death, destruction, a month of resistance and battles on the streets. And the city flows on wings of fame and falls like a stone on the heart, a poet was to write. April 1943, the action to liquidate the ghetto and the armed uprising. Genocide documented in the private photographs of General Stroop, intended for Himmler, a criminal. After a desperate struggle, the extermination of hundreds of thousands of human beings, only a handful was saved, the total annihilation of part of the city. Terror under the occupier, street executions, lawlessness. The capital never stops the struggle against the occupier by all the inhabitants. Appeals by the commanders, enthusiasm, and terrifying numbers of victims. Warsaw fights, barricades on the streets, a front line that runs through the middle of buildings, palaces, churches, through underground sewers. "63 days of battle, 16,000 soldiers killed, 150,000 civilian residents killed. The evacuation of the city, 1 million people." On Hitler's orders, the burning and dynamiting of whatever was still left standing. For almost 3 months, swirling flames and explosives transformed the city into a desert. The 17th of January 1945, the Soviet army enters the ruins of the city. Together with them, Polish units.
Horse rides here, Kadesh, whatever. with Rynek.
Another, what's that, India restaurant?
Namaste. It says Namaste,
Yes.
so.
What kind of assembly of Porsche cars here? Assembly, like how to say, gathering of Porsche cars here in Poland. You wouldn't say, but so many, you know, nice cars you can see in a country like Poland, which is still, you know, on the way to make some progress, but some people can't afford it now, it's obvious, you know, so love to good car, doesn't matter. The star of the opera scenes Denise Graves singing Carmen. It's to the left-hand side. Yes, it's the front. The front building of the president of Poland here in front of us. Yes. Who is the president? Well, his brother and the other guy were competing, and the other guy won. Yes, that would be yes. We got still the old news. Who is going to make it? how the other guy. Well, you know, Kaczynskis were regarded to be like conservative politicians, you know, and some people in Poland found them too conservative. In conservative Poland, they found them being like that. So it was a tragic accident to Mr. Kaczynski, and he wanted to see cars just stopped, you know, because good old times, and you know, all of a sudden we are going to feel happier. Here, left hand side, the biggest shopping mall, and here we are. Entrances, there are multiple entrances. The best thing is to enter here. I mean, there are even multiple entrances from this side, but you know, you're going to find yourself in a maze, which is also underneath here, you know, many
Because at 12 o'clock it is gathering of the miraculous. Yes. So we get now inside. Inside, please keep silence at the Holy Mass is going on. No photos. You can film, but no photos. Keep together. Thank you.
See you 1:45, same place.
Zakon Paulinów przyjmuje kandydatów na kapłanów i braci zakonnych dla wszystkich pielgrzymów zgromadzonych w kaplicy Matki Bożej.
Na mocy przywileju udzielonego przez Ojca Świętego, księże prymisjanici udzielą teraz wszystkim tu obecnym błogosławieństwa papieskiego, a ci, którzy przyjęli komunię świętą lub uczynią to w najbliższym czasie i pomogą się w intencji Ojca Świętego, mogą zyskać również odpust zupełny. Twojego błogosławieństwa. Niech was błogosławi Bóg Wszechmogący, Ojciec i Syn i Duch Święty. Idźcie w pokoju Chrystusa.
got caught in the crowds in the church. We've now lost the rest of our group. You found it?
The miraculous painting is covered now with the diamonds roll, made of diamonds. Mother of God has different vestments. When we continue to the news, you will see the other vestments, robes prepared for Our Lady. The painting will not enter the founder Prince Vladislav of Poland brought here 16 monks from Hungary, and 2 years after that he offered to the monks miraculous painting of Our Lady. From the beginning, many pilgrims brought here different things. The nights will continue. The other dress. Okay, right here. To the right of the name is the next best. So you will see the name. 600 soldiers came to conquer this shrine. Inside the shrine were if the shrine were just 300 people, it had them 70 months. The siege lasted for 40 days. The monks who run this monastery, they are called holy monks from Saint Paul the First Hermit. The order of the monks was founded 700 years ago and united hermits. Hermits who lived in the forest of Croatia and of Hungary. As hermits, they choose for their patron Saint Paul, and from Saint Paul they are called holy monks. Saint Paul, he stood the founder. He lived 10 centuries before the order of monks was founded. It is at the chapel of Saint Paul the First Hermit. Here in this yellow renovated chapel, here always it's going on the sacrament of confession from 6 o'clock until 8 o'clock in the evening. We are now walking on the protective boulevard. You can see this as well as the fortress. Polish king in the 17th century, they decided to build a fortress around the monastery. On the 3 sides around the monastery there is a park. Only on one side, you will see in a minute, behind this chapel, there is the outer altar, which is used always Saturday and Sunday, because we can't... Over 100,000 farmers from Poland who come here.
Don't take pictures of. Importante.